Ladies and gentlemen, the oldest rivalry in Australian sports is about to reignite in the most unique set of circumstances it ever has, because we are getting the 2020 State of Origin series between Queensland and New South Wales, but this time it's at the end of the year. So it's going to make for a very interesting matchup, a very interesting Origin series. One of the likes we haven't seen before, because some of these players have had months off, while some of these players just competed in grand finals less than a fortnight ago. But it still is Origin. It's the biggest rivalry in Australian sports. Millions watching around the world. Probably the most profitable event in the Australian calendar. It's going to be huge. And it's very, very interesting, because in one corner we got the Blues, who've just won 2 in a row. They're established. They've got a team absolutely filled with superstars. They're finally, for the first time in years, have got this little core going after this recent success, like Tedesco, Cook, Jake Trbojevic. You got this little core now New South Wales have finally been able to work with and gain some traction, which they haven't in years. They haven't had this sort of thing before. And Freddie Fittler, undefeated in Origin series. He is going for a three-peat. New South Wales have not won 3 Origins in a row in about 15 years. But in the other corner, you got the Queensland Maroons, who are coming off 2 series defeats. Their immortals are all gone. Slater, Cameron Smith, Inglis, they're all retired. And if things couldn't get any worse, so many of their players are injured. Ponga, Valentine Holmes is suspended for Game 1. You've got the likes of Kyle Felt. He's also injured and he hasn't been in this Origin arena before. Queensland are relying on so many young pieces for their team. It's going to make for such an interesting clash. It's going to, there are so many players out with injury. This is just what happens with Origin being at the end of the year. It's not ideal. Personally, I would rather have it in the middle of the year, but hey, at least we're getting some State of Origin footy. But despite this, the Origin pride for both states is hotter than ever, especially with this unique set of circumstances. And Game 1 shapes up to be a really interesting game for the first time. And it's pretty weird that in a global pandemic, they're going to be playing in Adelaide, which will, we can't have full stadiums. I'm sure it would sell out, State of Origin, but these are just the cards that are being dealt. I don't know if Adelaide's going to play that much of an impact, but, travelling. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of product we get. But the teams are announced. Of course, there's injuries and stuff, so these probably aren't the sides both coaches had in mind when they started picking their Origin teams, probably months and months ago. But the teams have come out. And for Queensland, a lot of young guns. Brimson, Coates, Lee, Gagai, he's a bit of a veteran, and Philip Sammy. That's 4 debutants for Queensland and a lot of rookies. You got Brimson, who's never played before, has been playing pretty well for the Gold Coast Titans. He's probably going to be a superstar in the future, but he's nowhere near a Tedesco, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, or Tom Trbojevic's brilliance. You got Coates, who is a hit or miss. Branko Lee's finally found some form in Melbourne. Gagai, one of the best centres in the comp. There's not much to say there. And Philip Sammy, who, let's be honest, is a very, very interesting pick. For the Blues, they've established, you got Tedesco, the best fullback, probably the best player in the world. Daniel Tupou makes a surprising return, which, to be honest, I would have had Nick Cotric in there, but, I'm not Freddie Fittler. Clinton Gutherson will finally make his Origin debut after such a good season. In the centres, not at fullback, obviously. Jack White and the Dally medalist will partner at Okar again. They've played together before, so that's not as much of a surprise there. Then, the halves battle. Now, this is probably where Queensland have the advantage, because you got Munster and Cherry Evans. Munster obviously just won the competition, and Cherry Evans, for pretty much since Cronk retired, or when Cronk and them all retired from international football, has been the premier Australian halfback. But they are going up against Keary, who's going to finally make his Origin debut, and Nathan Cleary. Cleary's probably been the best player in the competition this year. So that'll be a very interesting halves battle, and to be honest, that's where I see Queensland have the advantage. The forward packs of both teams are so good. You got Welch, Friend and Papali up against Look, it's not my first choice, but Saifidi, obviously Damien Cook and Junior Paulo. and then Kafusi, Cordner, Hess, Frizzell. And then this is a very interesting number 13 battle. You got Tino, who I'm not going to try and pronounce his last name, but you know, it's Fasuma Louis or whatever it is, and Jake Trebojevic. Tino is more of a running, you know, run for 200 metres, break 50 tackles a game sort of flock, and then Jake Trebojevic is a ball player. So it's two teams with very interesting identities, and that's just the case because New South Wales, when a game of football is like a normal game of football, there are plenty of points and all that, New South Wales have an advantage, but when it's scrappy and low scoring, that's when Queensland have the advantage. It's going to make for a very interesting game, but unfortunately for the Maroons, I'm going to have to go with New South Wales for game one. It's going to come down to the fact that I think that New South Wales, at least on paper, just completely outclassed Queensland. Queensland have had a lot of bad luck due to injuries, and I think New South Wales haven't had too many. Yes, they're missing Tom Trebojevic and players like that, but you just got to think about it. If both teams play to their best, I think New South Wales have the advantage because they've got the players who've played in Origins before, have won Origins before, and besides Cherry Evans and Cameron Munster and Jake Friend, I guess, Queensland don't have much experience, but hey, things can happen. A lot of things can happen. It is State of Origin. But for game one, I just think the experience of New South Wales is going to be too good for Queensland, and that will be game one sorted. I think New South Wales win this not by much. I think it'll probably be a very high-scoring game. It's going to be very interesting to see what type of football the product of it is, because some of these players have had a month off. It's not in the middle of the year when everyone's in a routine and training every day. A lot of these players have had months off, especially Queensland, with all their Gold Coast Titans players. But stranger things have happened. You know, Queensland, if you put this team in the NRL, I'm sure they would be a top 4 side. They've got class everywhere. But New South Wales just have experience. And I'm surprised Freddie has gone with so many debutants. Surprised David Clemmer's not there. A lot of people are. But I think New South Wales are going to pick up this win in game one. Guys, let me know who you think will win game one. And make sure you like the video and subscribe.
Chipper Chase! Please work. Yes, Kane Cast! You bloody legend, mate! They're chipping Chase. Kane Cast looking like 2009 Sharon Hayne. What a little legend.